Hello and welcome to Cherries Red Army, the fan show. We're back on YouTube and back-to-back live streams this evening. So what we're going to do is we're going to review the West Ham 2-2 ranked first half. Brilliant second half, should have won the fixture. So we'll talk about that in this first stream. We've also got Guess the Player, and we'll talk about what is going on at the moment. No wins in 3. We'll then switch over to another stream. You're going to join us over there on Cherries Red Army on a different video, and we will talk about Sunderland coming this Saturday. So that's on another stream coming directly straight after this if you're watching us live. Do subscribe, do hit the like button, and the interactive chat is open. So if you're a subscriber to Cherries Red Army, you just need to be a subscriber for about 5 minutes, and then you can get involved in the interactive chat. So let's see who's saying hello at the moment. So we've got Chris Hubble, Stephen Dyer, Steve Hensman. He might have a bit to say this evening. We've got Ben, we've got Mark as well. So more to join us hopefully in the next few minutes. Now, it was a 2-2 draw at Dean Court. It kept our unbeaten record going at home, but it was another moment for Andoni Iraola. 100 games in charge of AFC Bournemouth. Has around a 40% in the Premier League win rate with points per game average 1.5. In short, it's been an unbeaten record run for him. He's taken a lot of what Eddie Howe built up in the Premier League. And of course, we had our best ever finish last season. And we know that Bill Foley has big hopes of Europe. So my first question for you in the chat this evening, and for the guys that are joining me on the panel, what is Andoni Iraola's best attribute? So think about that for just a moment and tell us in the chat, what do you think is Andoni Iraola's best attribute? And on this video, we've got John, Aaron, and Steve. John, good to see you again. I was hoping you might have a little bit more decoration around you this evening, but slow as you go, you'll get there, won't you, in your new place?
Yeah, it's slow progress, as the last several months will have told both myself and Gina. But yeah, great to be back on again. It's a Wednesday, so I'm here. Yes, great to be back again, talking. Obviously, not the result we would have wanted, but we'll get onto that. Andoni Iraola's greatest trait, his best trait. There's a couple that probably come to mind. But I think I'll probably start with his stubbornness. I think we would not be in the position we are today if he wasn't so wedded to the way that he is, so confident that you should be playing football. And it is a way that suits Bournemouth. It's a way that, you know, the aggressive attacking style is one that Bournemouth have had for years in different facets and in different ways. But when he started with 9 games without a win, many outside voices were talking about how he either needs to get sacked or do something different. But no, he refused. He stuck with what he felt would work, and it's gone on to produce some of the best football that we've seen at the club for some years. So yeah, his staunch belief in how he wants to play football, or his stubbornness, as I put it earlier.
Ben in the chat, he says, focusing on us and not the opposition. Stephen Dyer, pragmatic character, does not think too far ahead, lives in the moment. Paul Faulkner, his timing of offensive substitutions. And Aaron, we might talk about substitutions following that 2-2 draw in a moment, but good to see you again. Best attribute, Andoni Iraola.
Yeah, good to be back on. Good to be with you guys again. Yeah, my best attribute for him, I think, would be his in-game management. The amount of times that we have been losing or not playing particularly well in either the first half or the first sort of 60 minutes of the game, and he adapts and really, I think someone mentioned in the chat, as you said, the offensive substitutions, but it's not just the offensive substitutions, it's the way he tweaks the formations, the way he comes up with plans mid-game to stifle the opposition and to flood them. And a couple of examples come to mind. most notably, I think we'll discuss it on of Saturday's game against West Ham, like tweaking and going to a 3, putting Lewis Cook at centre back, a masterstroke, flooding forward, and I think that also happened against Leeds as well. So Leeds away. So yeah, there are numerous examples over his 3 seasons, but certainly for me, I think his tactical nous, his as I said, his in-game management. Not that he doesn't obviously set us up to win from the start, which he does, but his ability to change and to really stifle and baffle the opposition with his substitutions and formation tweaks. So yeah, that for me is a game's never lost when you've got Andoni Iraola in charge. And however dour things are looking at certain stages of the game, you know that he's going to trust him to try and turn it around.
Mark Singleton says decision making. So absolutely, Mark. And we know Andoni Iraola is being targeted if he continues to take the Cherries in a positive direction. Steve Hensman, good to have you back on as well. You and Aaron probably do the most miles in travelling. Well, you definitely do the most miles, Steve. But what I mean is following the Cherries home and away. You do the most. So you do see it with your own eyes more than myself. Absolutely. Best attribute, Andoni Iraola.
Yeah, good to see you guys. Great to be back on. Hi to all the chat. Great to have you chatting again. There's some great comments in there, by the way. There's a lot of stuff that's already been mentioned, but and I would say, touching on what the guys have just said, like he's a bit like a cornered rat, isn't he? At sometimes, like when he's up against it, he doesn't cower away and try and just damage limitation. He goes, he's like a cornered rat, and he just goes, right, you know what? I'm just going to attack you. And see what I can get out of this game, even if it looks completely lost. And that, everyone's going to love that style of football. It's not going to always pay off, but look how many times it has paid off, and look at some of the moments we've had all around the country. It's been an absolute roller coaster. But what I'm going to pick up on for me with him is just as simple as coaching, and what he's done and the way he's brought on some of the players in our squad at the moment and what they're now capable of doing that they weren't before so much. And Aaron touched on it a minute ago with Lewis Cook playing centre back, for example. No one would have. I think we first saw that QPR in the Cup, and everyone's like scratching their heads, going, "What's he doing?" It's mental. But when you see what his thinking is behind it, whereby we'd rather have that ball playing midfielder there. He knows we're going to have the ball. He just wants someone to do a bit more with it. And when we had, and I think he did, it was brilliant on the weekend when Diakite, for his, I'm not picking on the guy, but he's a safe, dependable centre back. He'll give the ball sideways. He'll play short, safe passes. Lewis Cook comes on, and he bursts him forward. He's driving with the ball, much like Howson and Zabani would do last season. You don't get that so much with Diakite, but that then gives us another effect. We're attacking from the back. It's you know what I mean. And he sees those things, and that's excellent coaching. Look at Ryan Christie's another example. Average winger, he was okay, championship winger almost, and then he's gone and put him in midfield and centre, and he's coached it into him how to be an absolute pain in the arse to the opposition for most of the game. Look at how Alex Scott's come on. We were all saying whether is he really that up to it this season. He's proven that he's been coached well enough, and he's got his call up into the England squad. His numbers are better for us. He's starting every game, and I think that's all down to Iraola's coaching. There's probably other examples I could give. Look at Semenyo, what a player he's turned into. Look at, fortunately, probably not going to have him for too much longer, but you've got to put this down to the management and the coaching. So that was what I go with.
Totally agree. I'm going to steal someone's comment in the chat. I'm going to go for Mark Cole. Says it as it is. Post-match verdict is always what I have just watched. Now, you'll know a previous manager used to really frustrate me, and it was more because of what he used to say in a post-match. What I love about Andoni Iraola, win, lose or draw, he does sort of tell it how it is without throwing the team or someone under the bus. He is very honest. He has integrity. He doesn't gaslight. And that's what I love about Iraola more than anything. And I sit back, even on some days when I don't agree with Iraola and changes he makes, which is very rare, and go, but he saw the things I saw. I paid money, I go to games, and he watched exactly what I watched. And then he adapts and he makes changes and he does what he's got to do to get us back on the front foot. So I absolutely love that. I think there's too many coaches and managers out there now that just gaslight. Russell Martin, you could use another one there that, instead of helping Southampton, not that I really care, but instead of helping them try and stay up, he was happy to see them absolutely fall like a cliff for his own whatever he was trying to achieve, and he's done the same at Rangers. So I think having a coach that absolutely wants the best for us, the fans, the team, the players, but will not gaslight us, I just love it. And that's my comment. So I took yours there, Marco, and I absolutely sign the contract. Absolutely sign it, Andoni. At least another year or two. I know you're not going to sign more than that, but give us a little bit more. Maybe Europe will tempt you. Stephen Dyer says 10 more years. Right, let's get our first hint of the evening on Guess the Player. This is where the faces drop in the chat. They're not sure.
Here we go.
To be honest with you, you've been doing very well of late. So here is Guess the Player, because it is a bit of a fan
I'm
favourite
going
now
early.
in
Is
the
it
chat.
Russell Beardsmore?
It's not. Right, let's have hint 1 out before we get hint 2 and your guesses later on. So, Guess the Player. Who are we talking about this evening? Hidden Badge, starting his career at Hidden Badge, Torquay United, AFC Bournemouth, Hidden Badge, and retired. Career path, starting at Hidden Badge, Torquay United, AFC Bournemouth, Hidden Badge, retired. So have a think. That is hint 1 for the moment. So we're going to switch our attentions to that 2-2 at Dean Court. As I said, the unbeaten run continues. Still not lost there. 2-2. A dominating performance by us in the end. We're going to talk about it in more detail. Look at that momentum bar. Have you ever seen anything like that? I think West Ham didn't have anything in the second half. That momentum bar is crazy. But as you can see, lots of shots, lots of attempts. Should have won it in the end, but we didn't, because we left ourselves a bit of a hill to climb, didn't we, Steve? We left ourselves a hill to climb.
Yeah.
Where are you at? Because I have put the thumbnail on this. I mean, I've put Cherries fight back, but actually in the image, I've put, actually, you need to find the formula and stick to it, because I'm actually thinking now there's too much chopping and changing in certain areas of the team, and is that causing a bit of an issue for us?
Possibly. It is difficult. You seem to have a bit of consistency on the left-hand side of the defence, that is, and the right-hand side seems to be chopping and changing a bit. And it's not necessarily that it's because of the poor performances or anything. It's just, Smithy's had the concussion last time out, and Diakite's been chopped around with Milosavljevic a bit. There's a little bit of continuity lacking there. A touch, I suppose, but I mean, on Saturday, especially first half, I just didn't think I thought we went about it probably in the wrong way. And I put this down to the conditions, and I said it at the time. I thought West Ham actually approached it pretty. It was pretty obvious, really, what they were going to do. They knew we were going to try and dominate the game and put them under a lot of pressure, but they were just, when they got the ball, it was almost, a bit of Andoni ball there, sort of get it up pitch quickly, look for the knockdowns and make something happen. And they got a couple of chances and they were clinical. I mean, I don't think I've ever known Callum to be that clinical. He was clinical for us, but 2 shots, 2 goals. I would say Petrovic for the first one has got to do better for me. I think there was a bit of hesitation. He thought about coming and then backed off to his line, and then he was not set for the shot. Callum took it early and it was a great finish, but I'd be really disappointed if I'd got 2 hands to that and not kept it out. So yeah, I think there was a bit of bad decision making. We were trying to play, almost too pretty football in really bad conditions, I thought, and they just sat with the low block and we couldn't seem to break it down, and we couldn't control the ball very well because the conditions were skiddy. Brooks had that shot in the first half, and I thought he's got to bury that. He's right by it, and it's just come at him very quickly, and he's got it off target. He snatched it a little bit. Second half, I mean, when I was calling through now quite early on, because I thought, I know he's not had a lot of game time, but we had no threat from an aerial point of view. They were just they were cleaning it up easily. Evan Nilsson had a couple of sort of very tame headers that really didn't cause Areola any problems. And I thought, get him on. He's the sort of player in these conditions. If you stick balls in the box, and he'll cause a nuisance. He'll cause the defenders to make mistakes. And the play, I wasn't actually calling for him to be the answer as in scoring the goals, but I thought he'd cause enough issues that we'd get knockdowns and whatnot. But as it turned out, he go on to talk about it. He actually gets his goal, and it's a brilliantly taken goal, brilliantly worked goal actually. But I think there was obviously a half time we're 2-0 down. I mean, we made that change of Diakite, which I thought really made us a different proposition in the second half, because Lewis Cook had so much space to drive into because they dropped and they took Callum off, which I thought was madness personally. I don't know if it's they've got to manage his fitness at all. I don't know what it is, but they put
Apparently he
Souček
didn't
up
seem
front.
too happy about it either. I didn't really see the substitution in that much detail, but some of the West Ham fans said he was frustrated about
Bit
being
of a
brought
strange
off.
one, I thought, because I thought, he's caused us problems every time he's, well, hadn't been a lot of chances, but every time he'd had one, he scored from it. I mean, the second goal he scored was, absolute
He
class.
knows where the goal is, and he knows how to score.
He's a goal scorer, yeah. But taking him off and putting Souček on, it just sent out a message. I think that we're sitting here to win it, to hold on to a 2-0. We're going to defend for the rest of this half, and I think that was I just think it was a really bad decision. It's just asking for trouble again, especially against a wounded animal like Areola, who know what he's going to do when he's 2-0 down in those situations. He's going to go for it. He's a role, he doesn't want to sit there and just expect us to keep doing the same thing and expecting an outcome. He's going to change it up. And I think both decisions played into our hands. And it was, you can see by that momentum chart that it was just all us. It was everything was us. They didn't have an outlet.
So focusing in the next 5 minutes or so, Aaron, on the stuff that wasn't very good, in regards to someone in the chat's mentioned about finding other ways of winning or playing without Semenyo. And I do wonder if that sucked a little bit out the side when the team lineups, they would have obviously known beforehand, but those team lineups come out and then the fans will know that Semenyo's not playing, and there are concerns. Let's be honest, right? Andoni Iraola relies on pace. Now, you take Semenyo out, I'm looking at Ivan Nilsson, who is quick. He's quick, but he's not blistering. David Brooks admit himself he's not blistering pace. Tavernier's not blessed with pace. So I initially thought this could be a really tough game for us, because we know Nuno would come with a little bit of a game plan here. And like Steve was saying, in that first half, we were almost going wide and crossing the ball. It was a bit of an old-fashioned style that we had. The problem was we don't really have players that load into the box to score goals like that. Is it a problem? And did it take us so long? And of course, later on, West Ham's tactics to help us. But is the biggest problem here not having Semenyo?
Well, look, he's been our talisman this season. He's been our go-to for a couple of seasons now, and he's by far the biggest threat we've got. Probably the best player we've got, which is why he's likely to go for big money in January. I think there's a little bit of that. I think we've got enough quality in the rest of the squad, but when you've already got Cliver out as well, Gannon Dokes out, who was flying for Scotland, you're suddenly very limited with your wing options. All of a sudden, from having loads of options to suddenly a bit of an attack shy bench again. I think there was a bit of that at the beginning, where not so much they don't trust themselves, but they were like, "Oh, Antoine's not here. We can't rely on him. He's not our go-to, and we have to kind of find other ways to get into the game." I think you look at that momentum bar. I mean, if we're looking, obviously the second half, we'll take that next. But even the first half, I mean, I was thinking we were playing awfully. It was a terrible performance, and it wasn't great, right? It wasn't great. But if you still look at the momentum bar, we were still the team with by far the most possession. As Steve said, they had a couple of attacks and scored from both of them, really. So it wasn't great, but it wasn't probably as bad as we all felt at half time. And we all did feel it at half time. It just felt like rubbish, and the tempo wasn't right. It just didn't feel right. And I was getting increasingly frustrated with Evan Nilsson. And we might have a conversation about him. I'm a huge fan of Evan Nilsson, but I'm kind of struggling at the moment to kind of see what he is. And I mean that in the nicest possible way, because, as Steve said, you got someone that are now on the bench who I know he didn't score a header, but I was also crying out for him in those conditions and thinking, if we're going to get crosses in the box, let's get either two up front here or now potentially as a sort of player. We haven't got anyone else. Krupi obviously is a goal sniffer, as we've seen, as a goal scorer. Evan Nilsson is brilliant with link play, but he's so isolated half the time. Half the time it's not his fault. But then I'm just not sure what he is. And I don't know what the other two think about it. It's like, as you say, he's not rapidly rapid. He's not physically particularly strong. He's obviously not great in the air. He had a couple of headers in the second half, which were just powder puff. He's goal shy at the moment. He's not finding himself in the right positions. And I know that's a whole different question. So I was struggling to see where we were going to score from. And that was a bit of a worry. But and I also think the tempo was wrong, as I said, and I think we'll come on to it. But as good as Alex Scott's been, and I think he's been great, and I don't want him out of the team. I want him in that team. I think we have to get Ryan Christie in that team from the start now. He was our player of the season last year, and he was our player of the season last year unanimously from across the board. And there were times last season when he wasn't available or he was injured, and we were like, "Oh, we can no Christie, and look at us, we're completely a different team." So yes, Scott and obviously Tyler Adams, who for me is a shoo-in. Scott's been wonderful this season, and he he's improved no end. And Steve said he's really come on, and he's got his England call up, for heaven's sake. So I'm not for saying he should come out of the team, but
I don't think the conditions suited him on the weekend.
No.
He couldn't get his control.
I agree with what you said there, Aaron. It kind of was you want Christie in there a bit more.
It wasn't even so much. He didn't have his best game.
It's not a slight on Scott. It's just
they are completely different players, though.
But this isn't just on the West Ham game. I've been saying it for a few weeks now. That I think, as good as Scott is, we forget how brilliant Christie is when he's in the team. And until you start getting him in the team from the start, you won't remember how good he was. And I just think we have to get him in that team, because I think the whole tempo changed when he's in that team. So that's a whole different discussion. But yeah, I think, I came in at half time. I couldn't see where the goals were going to come from. But as I said in my intro, along came Areola and did his magic.
Going back to Evan Nilsson there. Aaron says he's a bit confused on what he actually is. I'm beginning to think he's not an out-and-out number 9 at all. For me, I'm kind of wondering whether he could play that 10 role a bit better, because he drops deep anyway, and he does a good press, but he's not as potent as I want him to be. I want someone latching onto. He makes so many runs and he never gets picked up. And I just think if he's a bit deeper making those runs in between the lines, I don't know, more effective. I might have tried the two of them the other way around.
The problem is, John, that if you do that, and look, we've talked about other players, like I think me and Steve especially was like looking at Senesi and how good his ball playing was, and could he be a CDM because of maybe his lack of pace, and actually could he be more pivotal there? Obviously, we've got Tyler Adams now, but we are looking at Evan Nilsson. I still think there is a striker in there. I don't know what it is at the moment. I'm almost thinking, John, that it's almost not his fault. I mean, are we creating enough carnage around him to create stuff for him? Let me lean on to Lewis Cook at right back as an example. Now, a lot of people praise Lewis Cook for his performance. Fair enough. And they're probably basing that on the 45 minutes where he had a lot of the ball getting us up the pitch when West Ham obviously retreated. I thought he was our biggest problem in that first half on Saturday. He is not a right back at 0-0 or when you're at home and you've got to dominate the fixture. His first thought when he got the ball at right back was to go back to Diakite every time. He didn't open up half. He didn't want to see David Brooks. He stifled David Brooks because there was nothing in around him. There's no overlaps. And there's no carnage. So if you get an overlap going, you disrupt. If you then get round, you disrupt. Is there more disruption then coming inside the pitch? And then even Nilsson's got space. It was so cramped for him. I know he had that chance where he thought he was going to swipe it in. The defender got a touch on it. I'm not sure it's even Nilsson's fault. I understand maybe he's not Callum Wilson. He's not a fox in the box. Well, I think he is a bit of a fox in the box, actually, because he's missed a lot of 2-yarders. I don't know what the problem is, John, but we've got to find a way of getting this guy some goals, because we need to start climbing the table again.
Yeah, I think it's a difficult one with Evan Nilsson, because he's not got the build of a modern striker. He can be physical, but he's not tall. He's not the best finisher. But what he does do is he works incredibly hard, which is why Areola likes him so much. And, he got He got 10 goals last season, and bear in mind there was that period where he was injured, but he played the majority. He played the majority of the games. Obviously, so far this season, he's missed a chunk of games. I can't remember what the injury was, and I do feel that I don't think he was rushed back, but I wouldn't be surprised to see that like he's still sort of like feeling a little bit of the effects, because most footballers are very rarely 100% fit. But I do think that as a team, Bournemouth are really struggling to create chances in decent volumes at the moment. And I think the West Ham game was just, particularly the first half, was kind of indicative of, I feel like, a real lack of creativity in the side. It was an issue, and I think Aaron actually has absolutely hit the nail on the head in regards to Christie. That was the thing that I feel a lot of fans were able to look back on in hindsight at the end of last season and go, you know what? When Christie left the team, that was when things took a nosedive. Because I think Scott's great, and I'm really liking his confidence that comes into it, but he's a dribbler. You know, Tavernier has a pass in him, but he's probably a 50-50 player between sort of a good dribbler, a good passer. Brooks has a bit more about him in a passing range, but Tyler Adams isn't going to play a pass forward very much. Jimenez isn't really much of a passer. He's more of a dribbler. The squad, you look through all of our attacking players, and it's like dribbler, 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 dribbler. Who's playing the pass? Everyone wants the ball to feet, and Evan Nilsson is the one that will make runs in beyond. Krupi does a little bit as well, and we do have players that receive the ball beyond the defence, but they're more likely to come from Trufair and Senesi. Those are the two players that are more likely to play a raking pass in beyond. And yes, and that Saturday morning, it was just too slow. Just the whole passing around the back. It's just all that struggles that teams have just looked at us and gone, they're great on the counter. They're great when they win the ball high up the pitch. Let's just ease off and force them to play the ball around the back a bunch, because they can't find a pass that cuts through us. And then it was the second half. Cook plays in the middle, so and with no striker to pressure him, he just runs forward and gets himself in a better position. Senesi has the freedom to pick a pass out, ergo the second goal. Christie is in a position where he can be influential. Tavernier isn't forced to be out wide because Trufair is providing all the width, so he comes inside and he provides the odd pass. Like, once you've got a fair amount of midfielders or passing ability in the middle, you were able to see players actually pick up positions and, take shots. They weren't the best shots. Areola was not forced to make all that much of a save. But yeah, I think that teams so far, and this is something we'll come on into the preview later, teams are very happy to just sit off us this season. And it is showing how much we're struggling in that regard. As much as we've done some things good, there's a fair few matches this season where we have just had to pull a moment of magic out of nothing, which is how we did so well at the start of the season. I think with Semenyo, Fulham is the perfect example for that. And it is an issue. And I do think that these kinds of matches, West Ham played with a back three. We have struggled against every back three we've come up against so far this season. And I think it's because we haven't had the player to play a cutting pass. And in a game like this, I think starting, as much as I think Scott is great for a lot of games, Christie was the one that should have come in for Scott in this game. I do think, because Scott, great dribbler, wasn't his best game. But you need someone to sort of create some incision. And if you've got to dribble past three players, that's really, really tough. If you've got to find one pass that beats three players, you can keep trying that and you'll find a good few options now and again, and you'll get goals and you'll get chances from it. And that's something we had in the second half. We just did not have it in the first half.
No. Mark Singleton in the chat says, I thought Brooks had his worst game this season, but I just don't fully blame David Brooks. I think he needs help on that right-hand side. He's not blessed with pace. He's not going to power on through players like Semenyo does. He needs a little bit of movement around him, and there was absolutely nothing, in my opinion, down that right-hand side. So it just makes his game much, much harder. So this is where I've got to then, Steve. In that second half, changes were made. You've got Jimenez coming on, more proactive, more progressive. Okay, I understand West Ham's tactics were to retreat and put everyone behind the ball, but he is taking players on. He's causing disruption. There is a little bit of chaos. Then we start absolutely peltering that goal. Good penalty from Tavernier. and we know that you now come off the pitch within a minute to equalise, and we should have won the game. How Krupi didn't score, by the way. I know it's a freak save. I know Areola really doesn't know anything about it. He's just flinged his legs out, and he's got nothing to do with it. But it's unbelievable we didn't score. But what I'm coming back to here, Steve, now is, I don't want to go back to Eddie Howe, but I'm going to say he built his tenure on consistency, and you could almost pick his lineups most week, right? Now, I think we've got to a stage now where he has to decide come Saturday when we talk about the preview, is it Diakite or Milicevic? Is it Smith? Is it Jimenez? Is it Christie? Or is it Scott? And I think he needs to go 4 or 5 games with the same team, and hopefully Semenyo comes back in. The chopping and changing a little bit, and I don't understand why he maybe played Milicevic at Villa, although I thought he was our actually positive spark in that game, although we lost 4-0. That's where I'm at, Steve. I think he needs to make a decision now on some of these positions, and he needs to commit to them unless they're injured.
You think he's becoming a bit of the Tinker Man, do you?
I just want to know what's going on a little bit. West Ham helped us. Let's be honest. West Ham helped us on Saturday.
Agreed. I think the centre-back thing is, I just don't think he knows who's the better player at the minute. I think he thinks it's Diakite, but then he's come up against Mateta, didn't do very well. Haaland didn't do very well, and Callum Wilson didn't do very well. Although it's difficult to say.
To be fair, the Callum Wilson one was not his fault.
No,
I'm not necessarily saying
he wasn't near either of those goals.
No. Bear in mind, stat of the weekend for me was, Callum Wilson's the first player in Premier League history to score 2 goals in the first half and not complete a single pass. And he didn't do anything in the match. Callum Wilson didn't do a thing apart from scoring 2 goals.
But that in itself is like, I know Senesi misses the header, but if that's all he did, and we didn't stop him. There's some questions there, really. Come on, if that's all he did,
absolutely. But the first goal. I just
don't think Iriola knows who that other centre back is.
I agree with you. Yeah,
and I don't think I feel. Do you know? I feel really sorry for all of this. Is James Hill, because I don't think he's worse than either of them. And at the moment,
they've all got a mistake in them, haven't they? That's the problem.
Exactly. But why he's not even getting a look in, I don't know what's going on there. He always seems very happy around when you see videos from the training ground, but I'd be really mightily pissed off if I wasn't even getting a look in when there's this inconsistency going on. Moving on, Scott and Christie's a really difficult one. I think they're both.
I want it to be Scott. I think it needs to be Scott.
We've kind of got that sort of old debate, haven't we? Do you remember when I'm not comparing us to England by any means, but when we had like Gerrard, Lampard, and Scholes, and we couldn't get them all into the team. And you really want all those players in that team, but I don't know what.
But the only way you can do that is if one of them plays a 10.
If one of them plays on the
Christie and Scott could potentially play a 10, but they're not as effective.
You can easily.
Iriola's not going to drop Tavernier, right? Iriola's not going to drop Tavernier. We know this. Right?
No, we know.
So I feel like it needs to be Scott in regards to his career. He should be the one that we should almost be building.
Because I don't think he's an 8. I think Christie's the best 8 we've got.
But we've tried him in a 10, and I don't remember it working.
He's not a 6, and he's not a 10.
Who?
He's a box-to-box midfielder.
My problem is, guys,
they're both 8s.
Yeah, my problem is,
you're not going to play 2, are you?
I feel like it needs to be Scott, because I think his career needs to be him. The problem is we are probably all in the same boat that comes Saturday when we talk about the preview. It probably needs to be Christie, but Christie's a different part of his career, and I just feel for Scott. But we've got to think about Bournemouth, and we've got to think about what Bill Foley wants to achieve, and we've got to think about trying to keep Andoni Iriola. So we need points, and we need wins. And Scott struggled the other day. I'm not saying that'll be the end of it if Christie comes back in. But I think he just needs to make a decision, Steve. I think he just needs to decide if it's Christie again, we have to deal with it. I think we spoke about this last year where we were talking about maybe needing to find the next Christie that's not 28, 29, 30, that's actually 22, 23. I think that still has to be on the agenda.
Personally, I'd go for Christie out of the two if I had to make a decision on it. I think it's a very tough one because they bring completely different attributes, but I much prefer... I love Scott's creativity, and I love his poise on the ball, his finesse on the ball. But when you talk about what you bring to the team as a whole, and you've got someone like Christie who does not stop, is relentless all game. He's got quality of his own. He can dribble with the ball if he needs to. He can get out of, and he can pass the ball. He hassles and I think our press is so much better with him in it. I was going
to say, sorry, you look back to our best period last season, right? Our best period of play. We had Cliver absolutely firing, Christie firing, and I have to bring up Dango firing, right? I don't care what anyone says about Dango Ouattara, because, and I've said this to you offline, Kirk, we're going to have to replace Semenyo in January probably, right? Or the summer. And we're going to have to find a player who costs, about 45 million quid probably to replace him. We sold Dango for 42. We sold Dango for 42 million, who was a lightning quick goal scorer who's causing havoc for Brentford. And I still maintain it was brilliant money for him, but we're going to have to replace Semenyo with the same money we got for Dango in the first place. So when we had Dango, Cliver, and Christie, very, very quick pressers of the ball last year, that's when we were most dangerous. And none of them are obviously in the team at the moment.
No, my
fear is Saturday.
Go on, Steve.
I was just sort of thinking, we've got a lot of versatile players in our ranks. And I know we've sort of, Kluivert's not getting a game really much at the minute. I know he's injured.
Yeah.
But he could play. He's played wing, and he can play wing, and it gets him in the team consistently.
Have we ever?
I'm not saying he's the same level. I'm not saying he's the same level as Semenyo, but I don't want to go a knee-jerk reaction and go out and buy someone in January just because we've lost Semenyo.
Well, don't forget Doak's injured for months, so that's going to compound that as well. That's the problem.
We've still got Adley and Tav and Brooks and.
That's it.
Christie can play there.
I'll come back to it, guys. My first thought when I saw that lineup was I was worried about the loss of pace. That was what I was looking at, and I know West Ham may put in a bit of a low block anyway. So obviously we like a team to come at us, and we'll go back at them. But that loss of pace for me in Semenyo, and I think what Aaron's talking about, and for me, I sell Dango again for 40 million, by the way. And I'm not disputing that he did very well for us last season when we barely had a squad and he scored good goals. He was a very reactive player. I think he had to earn everything that he achieved. I don't think a lot of stuff.
Do you not think he caused far more problems than Evan Nilsson up front at the moment?
He's lightning
quick. He's lightning quick. He's good in the air and he can finish a hell of a lot better than Evan Nilsson.
The problem is, Aaron, flick the coin and see what he comes up with. You were never guaranteed with what he was going to do. He could either score a goal.
He was getting better and better every season. He's only 21.
He could either scuff a hat-trick against Forest, or he could stick it in the top of the North Stand. We knew that's what we got with Dango, right? My thing is, though, I would have had Dango on Saturday because what he would give you is some direct attack. He would have a go at a fullback. He'd cross a ball, not always perfectly. And we missed a little bit of pace for me. Because it was all in front. It was all down the sides. It was a cross into the box, hoping Eve Nielsen could become the next Peter Crouch. And it just didn't happen, right? So Adley, for me, has got to turn up now. I understand that some of these players need time to bedding and understand.
He's about to go off to AFCON soon, don't forget. So we lost him as well. So we're not going to have him, probably Semenyo, Doak as well in early January, late December.
So it's important, John.
It's all right. Iriola would just coach someone into playing the right position. It'd be fine.
Yeah. Tyler Adams will turn into the next, next flying winger.
Coming back very quickly, John, to the centre back. I look at Diakite and Milicevic. Now, I think Diakite is a reactive defender. I think he very much reacts in the moment, tries to nick the ball, tries to intercept, 50-50 duels. Milicevic is a little bit more proactive. He likes to watch a little bit more that's going on, tries to intercept. And I know a few weeks ago, I'm going to contradict myself now, and I said actually build him in gradually. I'd be throwing him in now. For me, he looks more of a more rounded defender than Diakite does. And I know Diakite's got more experience, more under his belt. But I think Diakite maybe needs a little bit more nurturing. I'm not saying Diakite's not a good defender. I just think he needs a little bit of help. He is getting himself caught out quite a bit lately, in my opinion. Not necessarily on Saturday, but he is his decision making, trying to win the ball, getting found out, getting run around. I don't know. He just needs to calm down. Where I think Milicevic reads the game a little bit more. He understands what's going on. He tries to.
I definitely agree with that. And in terms of what you're saying about Diakite being a reactive defender, I would say that the irony is that he just doesn't react half the time. Is that you see him just standing still while the game happens around him, and that is just awful to see.
What I mean is
from a fan point, but I understand what
within 2 seconds.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. It's that he's sticking with his man. He's waiting for the ball to come to his man, and then he'll see what the player does. And it's like, whereas you look at Senesi, it's like ball is coming towards it. I know I can jump in. I know whether I can push my opponent into a position, to a certain position, or whatever. And I do think Milicevic is has definitely got. He definitely already looks like he's got something about him to go and be an even higher level player. And certainly with the centre backs, I totally agree that he needs to pick one and stick with it. I do think that really, I would be very surprised if he didn't stick with Diakite, purely in a result of Milicevic is the youngster that still, even if he's looked really solid at 18, he's far more likely to have a ricket in him than Diakite, even if our own eyes are telling us otherwise. It's purely a matter of age and experience. And Diakite is our second most expensive player signing ever. And regardless of anything else, there is a pressure that if you are given that player as a manager, you're expected to use him. And he is expecting to play. He knows what position he is in the pecking order. He's expecting to play. He needs more support. Absolutely. He needs a little bit more, guidance. And certainly I think that, his stats from his time at Lille shows that actually his passing was one of his best attributes as a defender, along with being pretty strong in the duel. Aerially was his weakness, ironically, but as a passer, he was actually very, very capable at Lille, and he looks very scared to play a forward pass at the moment. And I think that may well be partly due to his first game against Liverpool, where I feel like he really, really struggled, and that may be a sort of holdover that. He doesn't want to play the wrong pass and is too scared of making a mistake to play the correct pass or even take a risk at playing a pass. And you look at Senesi, you look at Truffert and players previously in Zabani and Housen, they were not scared to play a bad pass if it was going to cut through an opposition press. Diakite just is not even trying to do that at the moment. So there's a big difference. Whereas Milo hasn't really had to, but I feel like he looks like he could do it, and he has attempted it. So I would stick with Diakite. In regards to your previous mention, Kirk, about like how much he is rotating stuff, I feel like Scott Christie, I feel, is very much a thing where you go like, if we're expected to dominate, Christie. If we're expected to be on the back foot, Scott, is my personal opinion on that one, because I feel like Christie's going to help break down a low block. Scott isn't going to dribble through 3 players to break down a low block, but he is going to dribble past the one man that's pressing him and launch a counter attack. Not that Christie can't. I feel like that just suits Scott's skill set better. So bearing in mind, I've said before that I don't think Scott's the best passer, whereas Christie is. We're talking percentage, a couple percent here. Like the best passers are only slightly better than the average passers in the Premier League, but you notice it, you really do. And Scott's passing is good. It's just not as good as Christie's, as we all see. So the thing that I would like to see a little bit more consistency is up front, in terms of the 3 that are behind Evan Nilsson, or whether you pick Krupi or you pick Unal as the number 9, because Tavernier seems to be playing in the 10 or out wide in varying amounts. This was a 4-4-2 or 4-2-4 from what I could see last week, because Krupi and Evan Nilsson were the 2 starters. Yeah. And I don't think Krupi was playing as a 10. I don't think Evan Nilsson was playing as a 10. I was impressed with Krupi, particularly his defensive work against West Ham. He won a lot of duels and worked hard defensively for us, tracking backwards. But I don't think Tavernier works as a left mid. Brooks, as you've said, was isolated on the right because you need a fullback to be bombing on to support him, and neither Smith nor Cook are going to do that. There does seem to be a little bit of not quite joined up thinking in that front 4, and the amount of change that's happening in there is not helping the fact that we're not creating chances in the degree that we were last season. That is partly due to the fact that opposition are sort of like figuring us out a little bit. But yeah, I think up front is where I want to see a little bit more consistency, rather than seeing Semenyo left, right, Brooks left, right, and whatnot. But yeah, it's you can make a couple changes, but it does feel like it's personnel and strategic changes, 3 or 4 of them every single week, which is getting a little bit frustrating when we're not performing going forward in the way that we did last year.
Okay, do smash the like button on this video to help it grow after it's released to be replayed by anyone who's not joining us live. And do subscribe if you're new to Cherries Red Army. Just take this moment as well just to thank our monthly members who support the channel and help us do these live streams and pay for our StreamYard. So thank you to anyone who's donated or subscribed or become a monthly member this season. You can donate or become a member at www.buymeacoffee.com/Cherries Red Army. We're going to wrap this one up in just about 5 minutes.
Should we quickly talk about our goals before we do?
You talk about the goals then, Steve. You tell us about the goals, especially you now one.
Well, I just want to know, because there was an interesting debate and it got mentioned a few times about. Let's talk about the penalty for the first. It's a bit. I don't know what to make of it. Should it have been a red card? Well,
100%.
I think so.
Nailed on.
How they've come back and said that's not a clear that he's not a.
Why are you surprised? They don't know what they're doing.
I saw an article by, I think it was Keith Hackett, was as it does a thing for one of the online things, or whoever it was an ex-ref, and saying like Iraola's doesn't understand the rules clearly about this one because you can see that Wan-Bissaka is the covering defender, so there was a man.
He's literally
and you
look
look
in front of him.
You look at when the foul occurs. Evan Nilsson is a split second away from taking a shot, and half a second after the penalty is given, Wan-Bissaka ends up behind Areola. He's on the other side of the goal. It's nonsense that wasn't a red card, and it wasn't even a yellow. He didn't even get a yellow.
That's what's even more amazing is that you never got anything for it.
Great.
I'm not convinced Evan would have scored if he hadn't have handballed it because his first touch was appalling.
Yeah.
Well, great pen by Tavernier though. In the rain, in the wind, to smash it like that.
That's exactly.
That's what Semenyo should have done at Villa.
I was worried about it when I saw Tav step up. I have to be honest.
I was
that was ballsy. You now just very quickly then to come off the bench within a minute and score. I mean, he likes to go against West Ham and
the ball.
And to be fair, do you know what frustrated me? Not frustrated me, but when I watched the highlights back later on, he snatches at the second one he has.
Yeah.
He should be scoring that as well.
Yeah.
I think he's in a really weird position when he scores the first goal. If you see him, he's almost bent over, like doubled over. It looks really uncomfortable.
He showed for that one.
But he looks lean, He looks very different from before his injury.
My dad said to me, he said, "Has he got quicker?"
He does look leaner, and it's just something about him.
Mate.
He's going to be on player the second half.
Regardless of what it was, I'm absolutely over the moon for him, and he's gone through a horrible time with injury, and he comes on.
Forget what an option he is. He is an option.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I said.
I've got to be very careful though. This guy's had 2 ACLs, man.
Yeah,
I put it on a group chat about 5 minutes into the second half. Get now on because he gives us a totally different dimension.
Well. Yeah. What I would just final point before I think we should probably cover guess the player before we finish this stream. But the reaction, the difference.
I think I know the player, by the way.
If you remember his reaction when he scored the goal against West Ham last season, he turned away quite frustrated because it was around the time that news was talking about him wanting to leave because he wasn't getting the game time.
Yeah.
And now, after a horrific injury, the joy on his face was just wonderful to see. And I do hope that, as much as he probably isn't going to get a massive amount of game time and he may well leave at the end of the season, I really want him to just stick around, get his fitness together, get the odd game for us, and provide a few goals. And if he does, whether he stays or moves on, he'll be in a really good position, because any injury of that kind is just you can't imagine what it takes to go through that. So
wonderful. But let's be honest, guys, the fans in the chat, they're not here to really talk about Tavernier penalties and they want to know who guess the player is this week. So let's quickly get this one out before we end this stream, and we'll head on to the next stream to look ahead to Sunderland. So you had I just
ask, just before you get onto this,
He's trying so well to not.
I just want to derail everything you do. No, I've never heard of this hidden badge side. Who are they? They've signed him 3 times.
They've signed everyone we've ever bought.
Right. I never learned my lesson. Put Steve on mute. Right. Hint 1. You had about half an hour ago. He played for Hidden Badge, Torquay United, Bournemouth, Hidden Badge, retired. Okay, let's give you hint 2. If I say this right, Coleraine
I had
FC, Torquay,
I had it from the first one.
Torquay United,
Same,
Bournemouth,
John,
Leeds, Luton, retired. Hold fire. This is your moment. Now, quickly in the chat, it's time for. Oh yes, the best game show on YouTube. I can't even say it. So we had hint 1, hint 2. There's your final hint. Then some guesses are going in the chat. I heard Aaron go, "Yeah, I got this." John's got it as well. So Aaron, you were confident you had it on hint 1. Did you have it on hint 1?
I did, yeah, and I think John did as well.
I didn't.
I can't think of many other players who've gone from Torquay to us. And
Torquay was
the first player that came straight to my mind. Yeah,
go on then, Aaron.
And it's right because I can see now it was right.
Is it? Yeah. Can I just see if I have got it right? Is it Union O'Kane?
Yeah, there you go.
Well,
Right,
I haven't told you yet. I'm the only one who really knows.
It's Union O'Kane. Right.
It's Union O'Kane.
I'll tell you what, guys. What a midfielder, right? How many man of matches did that kid get in League One, by the way? Like every week. He was ridiculous.
He didn't always play, did he?
Yeah, he wasn't always a regular, yeah.
No.
But he was played in the Premier League a couple of times. I remember
had injuries as well. He suffered bad
season
injuries.
In the Premier League, he played a bit.
Was it
Wigan in the cup that he scored? Was that the?
That
might have been the one. Is that when he sort of come round the side and then it was sort of finesse into the that might have been the celebration.
He scored
as well.
a lot, but he had a hell of an engine on him.
Yeah. He switched allegiances as well, if I remember correctly.
Yes,
internationally.
Him and Arthur got called up around the same time, didn't they?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was originally Northern Ireland, and then he switched over to Republic.
Okay,
I didn't know
that was your.
I think that's right.
The player for this week. Okay, so what we're going to do now for the live chats, we don't want to lose you. We've got about 23, 24. Hit the like button. So what we're going to do now is going to end this stream. If you head straight back over to Cherries Red Army into the live tab box, you'll find the next stream where we're going to talk about Sunderland taking on Bournemouth. So hit the like button on this video. If you've watched this video back on replay, thank you very much. Do check our preview out versus Sunderland. That's also on the channel, which is now should be available to you if you're watching it back on replay. But from me, John, Aaron, and Steve, for the moment, we'll see you in about 2.
Not the chairs.
Cherries.